Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we have another video for you of the Start Collecting series focusing on those brand new boxes coming out this weekend alongside the launch of Broken Realms Morathi. And today we're going to be looking at, in particular, the Stormcast Eternals box set that's coming out, known as Ven Bretch and Black Watch. So this is a box set focused on the narrative of Stormkeeps, which are sort of Stormcast bastions built within the cities of Sigmar, and they give us a few different rules that we can work with. They function much more defensively, they have a lot more benefits towards shooting, and in general that's the way they sort of play. They're not sort of the come down and deep strike army that Stormcast are if you're not playing a Stormkeep. So let's look at the units we're going to get inside the box to start with, and we'll start with the Lord-Veritant and Gryph-hound, who in this box is known as Ven Bretch. So Lord-Veritant is a Stormcast priest. He's a Lord level priest, which both theirs are. We also have the Lord-Veritant, you might remember from the original starter set, that cool skull helm dude, but this one is a priest as well, and so he gets to have access to all the Stormcast prayers, of which there are quite a few good ones, such as Blessed Weapons, Abjuration, not that he needs it, we'll get into that in a sec, and other ones as well. And so I mentioned that he potentially doesn't need to pick up the prayer Abjuration. That's because the Lord-Veritant can dispel a spell as if he were a wizard, and if there's Gryph-hounds nearby him, he actually gets to add +3 to that roll. And what's really cool is the Lord-Veritant, when he's set up on the table, allows you to deploy one Gryph-hound that's sort of his loyal companion alongside him, which is really cool. So it means you're very likely always going to be getting that +3 if you can keep that Gryph-hound nice and close to him. Mainly because your opponent's not going to target a singular Gryph-hound, or they shouldn't be. It's not really a target worth going for, but it does give you a good benefit. He's also got some other cool abilities that all sort of target wizards as well, like his lantern there that he's got on his staff can do some mortal wounds to nearby wizards, which is really cool. And in general, he's a Stormcast hero, so he has a decent save of 3+. He's got a damage 2 weapon with 4 attacks that hits on 3s and 3s. So he's no slouch in combat. You put him up against a couple of lone clan rats or goblins, and he's going to get rid of them off objectives for you. Next up, we've got a unit of Gryph-hounds, so an actual unit of Gryph-hounds, and there will be 6 Gryph-hounds in here. Gryph-hounds are a cool little fast unit. They actually have a decent amount of wounds, more wounds than you would think they have, judging by the models. And they can be put out a decent amount of damage. They're not going to do any wonders for you, but they are necessary to be playing with the battalion that we're going to be looking at, which is the Stormkeep Patrol, which is what this box set is based around. We've then got 3 Casticators, and so the battalion, as aforementioned, needs you to have 2 units with the Judicators keyword. And so Casticators are one of 3 available options to have that, and the one you get in this box set. Alongside the Judicators, which we'll get talking about. And sorry, the keyword is Justicar, not Judicare. Castigators favour targeting units like Daemons and Nighthaunts. They have a single shot weapon that gets better if they shoot those particular targets. You also do get a Gryph-hound inside that box set, though he can't actually be used in a match play environment because well, he just doesn't fit. It's just a cool alternate Gryph-hound. And for me, I would probably use that one as my Lord-Veritant's Gryph-hound rather than the one the Lord-Veritant gets, as I think that model is just a little bit cooler. Or it could be a great substitute to make a Gryph-hound alpha in your unit of 6 Gryph-hounds as well. Then we're getting on to the last box set inside this, and that is, of course, the Judicators. Now, the Judicators have 2 different weapon loadouts. They can either be armed with the bows or the crossbows, and they both have different specialist weapons. The bows for me are my preferred pick, although the crossbows do have their uses as well. The bows have some range, and the sergeant's weapon has a good ability where if you roll a hit, you then roll a dice and you get that amount of wound rolls to make for the bow. This, of course, when you take a unit of 10, you can actually still take 1 in 5. It's not required for you to put it on the sergeant, though your sergeant hits +1. It's advised you put the first one on your sergeant and give the second one to, I guess, a generic Judicator. You can also take the crossbows, who, while they don't have rend, make up for by having more shots. They do have a shorter range than the bows as well, and their special weapon does mortal wounds, though it's most effective against large units. So your Judicators with bows are going to be taking out much more heavily armoured targets, while your Judicators with crossbows are going to be taking out hordes and lightly armoured troops. But let's get looking, I guess, at where we can expand this force next. So for me, the first thing I'd look to expanding next is, well, the battalion, as aforementioned. The Stormkeep patrol can have other Justicar units in it, and so the Vanguard Raptors are a fantastic unit to add in. You can swap out when playing games for either having your Judicators or using these Vanguard Raptors. They are much more elite troops. You're going to get 3 in a unit, unlike the 5, although Castigators get 3, they're far more elite, costing almost sometimes 3 times as many points as a unit of 3 Castigators. What's cool though is they do punch out a decent amount of mortal wounds with the sort of Arborquake crossbow with the stock that you see there pictured, although they do have a rapid fire crossbow variant that can pack out a whopping 9 shots a model if you choose to go down that route. They also come with Aether Wings inside the box set, which are a great unit alone, let alone when you put them with Vanguard Raptors, who can make use of them, allowing the Aether Wings to actually intercept charges and stop them being charged. What's also great though is Aether Wings are a 40-point unit for 3 models that have fly and a big movement of 14 if I'm correct. Either way, if that's 12, if it's 16, whatever, it doesn't matter. That just ability, they'll be able to take points and your opponent has to actually deal with them, which is annoying for your opponent because they're not going to do anything other than just score points that are far out your reach. You can send them off early game and just grab points with them and get up an early lead, or you can use them, sit them back in your army backfield. Your opponent can't really target them because otherwise he's just wasting resources not targeting your vastly more superior Stormcast units. And they can jump on objectives late game when your opponent's forces start to run thin. The next thing I would definitely add is the battalion actually does allow you to take Redeemer units instead as well. And so Stormcast have 2 major Redeemer units that can be Battleline. Well, one of them is naturally Battleline, and one of them is a Battleline if option, and that if is requiring a Lord Arcanum to be your general. So more than likely, in how we've sort of built this force, they're not going to be Battleline for you. And they are Liberators and Sequitors. Liberators are Battleline always. They're actually Battleline always, so not just in Stormcast, just in Order in general, which is really cool. So if you're going to play an Order army, or a mixed Order army, or even put them inside Cities of Sigmar, you can do so and they'll still be Battleline, which is really cool. Liberators are pretty decent. They've got a 4-up save. They reroll 1s to saves if they've got shields, or reroll 1s to hit if they've got dual weapons. And they've got a special weapon for 1 in every 5 models with either a Grand Hammer or Grand Sword, which has some rend and does 2 damage. And then the hitching and wounding profiles are 3-4, or flip reverse that for the other weapon. Hammers hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. Swords hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. Liberators are decent. They are 90 points for 5 models with 10 wounds and a 4-up save. Rerolling 1s is pretty sweet. For me, I always put shields on my Liberators. I feel they're vastly more better as a defensive unit, and in Stormkeeps, as long as they don't move, they're actually going to get +1 that save, making them 3-up saves or rerolling 1s, which is just fantastic. We then got Sequitors, who cost a decent amount of points more than Liberators, especially when you start getting more and more numbers. The points will run out a lot quicker, and they only have a maximum unit size of 20, whereas Liberators have 30 for a maximum unit size. Sequitors, though, hit on 3s and wound on 3s, and also have some really cool abilities where they can reroll all saves or reroll all hits, though they only get to use one of those 2 things in each combat phase, and they have to elect to do it at the start of the combat phase. Sequitors, just like Liberators, have 2 different weapon options. They've got either the mauls, you can see there pictured, or they have swords that they can take as well. Though if you're picking up Sequitors from a starter set, they will always have mauls. Same as Liberators, if you're picking them up from a starter set, you will always have hammers, not swords. Both these units are really great though, and will do a job for you within your Stormcast force. And the next unit we're going to talk about is starting to add maybe a second battalion in the army, or is someone that can really buff these units around him, giving them +1 to hit. And that is the Lord-Veritant. So the reason we've included him in this is because it's going to allow you to start taking another battalion, which is a Stormcast hero-focused battalion that gives you a lot of command points. Now, the Storm host that this battalion is based around, and well, this box set is based around, is called the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, and they're well known for being command point hungry. And now there's a battalion you can take which allows you to take, I think it's 3 Stormcast characters, and one of them must be a Lord-Veritant. And this allows you to sort of generate command points, rolling dice for each of those characters to get some more command points. Now, we won't be using it in the list, and I'll show you just in a sec, but it's a good model to pick up for when you start thinking about building up that battalion and building up towards higher points values of 2k rather than 1k. But he's a solid model, and he's a really cool looking model as well. So they're definitely my suggestions of models that you should pick up next for your Stormcast. And now we're going to go look into a list that I think will get you off to a good start, just learning how the army plays, and will be a great place to expand upon to go up to 2,000 points. And so this is the list. As mentioned, we obviously are playing Stormcast Eternals, and we're also going to have the sub-faction of Anvils of the Heldenhammer, and also going to be playing in a Stormkeep. So our leaders, as mentioned, we're going to take the Lord-Veritant, and he's going to have the artifact Soul Thief. It's just a combat weapon. It doesn't really do anything particular for him, though it is the generic artifact we must take when we are playing Anvils of the Heldenhammer, and it's probably better on your Lord-Veritant rather than on your Lord-Veritant, mainly because he's more likely to get in combat, or you want to be in combat more than your Lord-Veritant. We then got our Lord-Veritant. He is going to be the general. He's going to have a command trait Deathly Aura. This is just a 6-inch -1 bravery bubble for your enemy. And so artifacts, you can sort of choose what you want here. Artifact doesn't really matter all that much. I've gone for the Shoving Light, so this is going to make a -2 bubble instead of -1, just sort of double down on that, though bravery is hit and miss when you start looking into it for Age of Sigmar. There are plenty of armies that have easy access to ignore it, or just ignore it outright. He's going to have the prayer as well, bless weapons, because he's a priest. And so the prayer bless weapons allows you to, when you roll a 6 to hit with a weapon that's got blessed weapons on them, they get 2 hits instead of 1, which is really cool. This can just up that firepower, especially since Stormcast generally are light in models and light in attacks. This can just help you get through a few more hits. Next up, we're going to have for Battleline, we're going to have 10 Judicators and 10 Liberators, and we'll start by talking with the Judicators. For me, definitely bows are the options. I've gone through previously of why I think they're just a little bit better, or talked about how the two variations work. What's cool about this though is because you're playing Stormkeep Patrol, crossbows do have a use within this army, so you can build that way if you want. I'd suggest maybe building them in a way that suits your current meta. If you've got a lot of people like Skaven and Gloomspike Gits, and armies with lots of models, then maybe I'd go with the crossbows. But if you're playing against armies that are like Slaves to Darkness, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Lumineth Realm Lords, and more heavily armoured units, I would definitely take the bows over crossbows. Either way, a unit of 10 Judicators, they're going to fit in the battalion along with our Lord-Veritant, Castigators and Gryph-hounds, and we'll talk about them next. Castigators 3, look, there's nothing really they're going to do much. They might come in a bit clutch if you're playing some Demons or Nighthaunt, but really, they in general don't do much, but we're going to have to take them. It keeps the battalion we're taking nice and cheap, plus you're going to get them in the starter set, and they are really cool models. There are some builds when you start looking into Stormcast later where Castigators really do shine, but you have to build heavily into the Castigator build if you really want to get something out of them. Lastly, we've got the unit of 6 Gryph-hounds, mainly because we need it for the battalion. This can be great though. This can be used as a screen when you redeploy your forces using the battalion's abilities, and in general can move pretty fast and has a decent amount of wounds, so your opponent has to actually put something decent into them to get rid of them. So it can be a great distraction unit, or can be used to grab objectives late game. Lastly, we're going to include the battalion Stormkeep Patrol, which is the box set is based around, and Stormkeep Patrol is a really cool battalion because after the deployment but before the game begins, you get to pick up all the models from the battalion and move them so that they are 9-inch away from enemy models. This can be great as it allows you to get off a nice shooting alpha strike, and once again, this is what I was talking about what the Gryph-hounds can do, is they can deploy in front of your other troops and sort of screen them off. You can also sort of sacrifice the Castigators to make sure that Judicator unit, more than anything, doesn't get touched. You do have some options when playing this as well, because you could drop out the Castigators or the Liberators the Castigators or the Judicators from the battalion and put the Liberators in it, because, as mentioned, Redeemer units can go into that battalion as well. And potentially, if you're going to build into this later, you can always get more Liberators or Sequitors and make the battalion much more combat orientated, of which there are a few cool ways you can get right up in your opponent's face really quick and make those charges almost unfailable. Well, we hope you enjoyed that video. Hopefully that's been a bit of information for you if you're looking to get started in Warhammer Age of Sigmar with this particular box set. Lastly though, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to come chat with me and other members of our fine community, you can do so by following the link down in the description of the video to our Discord server. I'm on there most of the time when I'm not working, and you can come chat with me and ask any questions you have there. Also, don't forget to leave some questions down in the comment section of the YouTube video as well, and be happy to answer them when I can. Lastly, a shout out to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. A special shout out to our Sinful Guard Militia, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren and Kenny Lull, and our Free Good Regiment members James and AJC. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. It means the absolute world to us. If you'd like to support the channel like these fine gentlemen, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video down below. But that's it from us today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.